I know when we're ready. I have to stem my social awkwardness now. It's fine. All right. Building safe ministries. Policies and procedures are one of the bedrocks of ministry because it's how they function. And so we'll get into that in a minute. And it's one of those seemingly boring things that everybody kind of inherits one sometimes, or sometimes there's just not one. And it's not even really great bathroom reading. You know, if there's not a shampoo bottle, I guess it'd be good, but sometimes it gets really dry reading and writing policies. But we're going to go through kind of why it's important, and then how do you do it that doesn't make your eyeballs fall out, context notwithstanding. So while we get started, what's the weirdest ministry situation that you have ever dealt with? He's so loud. Oh, I know. Bless him. Have you heard Jonathan talk? Bless him. He's the worship pastor at our church, so I can pick just a little. It's like my brother. Anyway, so what's the weirdest ministry situation you've ever dealt with?
We had a whole. Okay, so the girl had a daughter for birthday marriage for her and a second were engaged, and they were kept trying to kind of insert himself into the ministry, like trying to get information. I mean, he was the guardian.
Mm-hmm.
So he kept trying to raise money in it.
Mm-hmm.
It lasted about 2 hours. It was just very terrible.
Yeah.
The mouth of the dog. But it was very rude. It's very awful.
Mm-hmm.
There were all background checks and everything like that. But he was. His motivations were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of those relational aspects are really difficult. Anybody else? Odd ministry situations? Anybody ever had a situation that warranted policy revision? Okay, great. Well, then this is prime soil for this workshop. I don't want to call it a training because that feels very much like I know all the things and you don't. I just am going to talk about the things. All right. Policies aren't written because we expect bad people. Policies are written because we love people enough to prepare. We want them to come into a space that they can trust who they're leaving their children with. That's the most special thing in their life, and they are leaving it in the care of another person. So they should be able to trust us. We should know, like, we look what we're doing, and it matters. And so what are some reasons that churches might not want to write policies or haven't? You feel like you're small and you don't need them. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows everybody. Yeah, sometimes you feel like you're strict or you're asking too much of people. Anybody else? Reasons the church might not have or want to write a policy. Okay. So here's a scenario. We're going to read through it, and then I want to get your feedback on how your church would handle this. Brand new family visits your church, never been in your doors before. Grandpa drops off the child. At pickup, Mom arrives. Grandpa already picked up the kid 20 minutes ago. Now you have Mom and no kid. What do you do? Call Grandpa? Okay. Providing you got his phone number at drop-off. Anybody else? What do you do with that situation? You have a parent like, where's my kid? And you have no kid. It's one of those situations that, like, the thing you want to do is throw up, right? But this is one of those scenarios that can happen anywhere. Whether you're a small church, a big church, an in-between church, that can happen to anybody. And so this is why policy is important, because it helps educate in situations like this. And the policy principle that one might parallel with is your check-in, check-out policy. Don't simply ask what the policy should say. You don't start with, like, well, what does the policy say? You ask what question your policy should answer. Who can drop off the child? Who picks up the child? What information should we get in case something happens? So you should run through these questions in your head. You know, somebody comes in your door, where do they go? Who do they talk to? So walk in with fresh eyes. Sometimes it even helps to have somebody, like a friend, walk through it like they would be somebody new and ask them what would help you know what to do and where to go. And then you may also have information on what you need to know about the people coming in so that you can keep their kids safe and return them to the proper families afterwards. So I'm a children's pastor, so, we like to have fun. And so what might a policy address about the following items? This is participatory. Wait, whether kids can have devices or not in the ministry space. What else? How they can be used. Anybody else? Duet? Volunteers using devices. Anything else? Mm-hmm. What about this one? Permission slips. Attendance sheets. Anybody have a church bus or church van? Anybody pick up kids in a bus or van? Yeah. So transportation is a big one. Permission for transportation is a big one. Because who can drive said vehicles? Because you never want to pick up a kid for church and then their parent file a missing child report because they didn't tell their parent they were leaving. Right. Exactly. Having the same number of children to and from is not a good time. Really? Ratios, the number of adults to children. What about this one? Everyone's favorite. Insurance. Permission to treat if they're off campus. Medication lists. Allergies. Emergency medical care. All right, some of those big ones. What about this one? Whether or not you do go in with kids, supervision in the bathroom with kids. Yep. Yep. What about this one? Photo releases, posting on social media. You mentioned whether or not kids or adults can use their devices to take pictures earlier. Because sometimes we have kids in our ministries that cannot be photographed. Foster care is a great example, which again can be in any community. What about this one? Shelter in place, natural disasters, emergency response, emergency plans, allergies, parental preferences. That's a good one. So what's the goal? There's a lot of categories, right? What's the goal? The goal isn't to wear a tinfoil hat and have the longest policy known to mankind. There is no medal for that. A nice, shiny, insurance-approved policy is not your end goal. Safety for the kids in your building is the end goal. Clear policies are the foundation for their safety. This is a great example of, well, we're a small church and we've never had that happen. How many of you have experienced these at church? A bloody nose? A broken bone? My kid too. 6 stitches later. Kids who didn't get picked up. Kids who saw inappropriate material or had inappropriate conversations with other children. An allergy flare. An angry parent. Policies don't prevent problems. Problems are going to happen because where 2 or more are gathered, the Lord is there and so is chaos, right? Because people have differing opinions, and that's okay. That's what makes us edify each other and lift each other up. Policies don't prevent problems. Policies prevent chaos. Every ministry is going to eventually experience an issue of some variety if you're dealing with any number of children or people in general. The goal is to be prepared to respond appropriately when those things happen. So how do I write a policy? Because this is all great, and I think we'd all agree that policies are important. You wouldn't be in here if you didn't care. So how do we write a policy? Because sometimes it's much easier said than done. A volunteer test is a great example. And now this is not a test that your volunteer takes, although if your volunteers have to spend more than a minute with your current policy or a policy that you write looking for an answer, your policy is too complicated. They're not going to read it. They're not going to look for it. If it requires more than a minute of searching for an answer, it's too complicated. A volunteer with a question on a Sunday or a Wednesday needs to know, what do I do? Who do I tell? Is this allowed? What's expected of me? Those are 4 things they need to know. What do I do? Who do I tell? Is this allowed? What's expected of me? And there are 4 magical questions for policies. Why do we have this policy? What do we actually do with it? What happens if something out of the normal plan occurs? And who's responsible? And so we have a purpose. Why do we have it? We keep it simple. And, to provide a safe and secure process for dismissing children to authorized adults. It would be a simple purpose statement for the grandpa scenario earlier when mom came looking for the kid and we didn't have the kid. And then procedure, what do we do? Simple steps to follow. We don't need to write them a dissertation. The number of words in our procedure doesn't make it better. And we tell them what normal is, right? We tell them they're going to come in, they're going to check in, they're going to take their potty break, however you guys do it. They're going to go to kids' church. We're going to have worship, but they're going to have a snack. We're going to have our lesson. We'll do a craft. We'll play a game, whatever order these things happen. When the service is over, parents will come pick up their kid and they'll go home, right? Now, you may have a variety of ways of doing that. I'm sure we have at least 4 different check-in policies here because of the number of people in this room. No 2 policies are equal, right? So we tell them what normal is, but then we plan for contingencies. Like, if a child doesn't get picked up, this is what you do. This is who you call, right? Check Planning Center for parent or guardian's phone number and give them a call. Contact your children's pastor if you can't get in touch with the parent. Whatever those steps are for you, write them out. And then telling your volunteers what's expected of them and what's expected of other people, right? Like, in an emergency, this is your job. In an emergency, this is my job. As a staff member, as the children's director, whatever your role is, this is what's expected of our volunteers, and this is where you lean on me, right? And so, who needs to know certain things, concerning situations, reports to be made. Children's ministry leadership should not find out things about children's ministry secondhand. So at some point in your list of steps, contacting you should be one of those things, or your children's ministry leader. Providing contact information in the policy is also helpful because they may not have your phone number. Have anybody seen a policy like this before? I see heads nodding. Some of us look very tired. So before, right? Sometimes we inherit a policy and sometimes ChatGPT writes us one. Sometimes our insurance company sends us one. Policies come from a variety of places, right? And some of them are real dry and real long. Like this one. The children's ministry is committed to providing a safe and welcoming environment where children are cared for physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Because parents entrust us with their children. La 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 la. Did any of that tell us anything? Didn't tell us anything. No. You like kids. We like kids, right? That's yes. If you have a children's ministry, you should like kids. If you don't, please find a place to volunteer. Lovingly. In here in the middle, it says, at dismissal, volunteers should make every reasonable effort to release children only to an authorized adult. No. It's in the middle of the sentence. The middle of the paragraph. But then, like, it says individuals presenting a matching security tag should generally be permitted to pick up the child. Like, there's a policy in there. It's just bad.